All right, big content warning for implied abuse of every type you can imagine, really, including sexual, I'm slurring the word on purpose, alcoholic, drug, physical, mental, domestic. The world of Olathe in this game is just not kind. There's going to be themes that disturb. So please take caution and keep yourself safe. And if I sound a little bit tired, it's because I am. I am running on a bagel sandwich, a cup of coffee, black with 2 sugars because I don't have any cream, and a candy cigarette because I do not smoke. And I'm making a little joke like that because when we're coming out of something as emotionally charged and confusing at times as Lisa the Painful, we think, let's just dim it down a little bit. I say screw that. Let's bring even more pain forward with the joyful DLC. And just please note that this game is not, in fact, joyful. The title is very misleading. I just take a lot of joy. Now, thankfully, this doesn't affect the game's ending like it did in the Painful, but spoilers ahead, obviously. It's highly recommended to play both games yourselves, or at least the Painful, since the Joyful, is a direct sequel. Now, I do have a video that's a soft review of the main game and my playthrough, recap of that, if you want to cut 12 hours, that the time it took me to get through it, to 45 minutes. So I'm just going to try and stick a little info card thing up there in the corner and pray that works. I haven't done it before. Ooh, new methods, new technology. That's exciting. It's not new technology. I've just neglected it. Anyways, yeah, spoilers for the rest of the video. You've been warned. Don't complain. So the Joyful DLC follows Buddy directly after the ending of The Painful, featuring the wonderful exploration of self-discovery through needless murder. Honestly though, Buddy is screwed up, bad. Her distrust of men and her thirst for power over her situation really shows itself through this journey. This is honestly another story where we don't root for the protagonists because they're doing the right thing, but because we want to see where their actions take them. I mean, she is Brad's kid after all, but Rick just tells him to stay out of it, that Buddy isn't his girl, that she doesn't belong to him. I mean, she was raised by Brad. She's raised by Brad to be a killer, forced to take another man's life in order to harden her and make her numb to the act. As cruel as it is, it's the reality that she needs to face. And this starting dream sequence where Buddy is standing there crying because Brad wants her to take a life, it's very clear that she doesn't want to, obviously, but she has to. If she is going to make it anywhere in the world where it is a world full of perverts and violent maniacs and people who just want to use her to further the future, she is going to have to defend herself, and she is going to have to use any means necessary to do so. It's either kill or be killed or used, and that really backfired on Brad when it came to wanting acceptance from her in the end, but this is the little monster that he helped create. Alright, look, the Buddy that we know was always a girl hoping to get her own life back, running away from Brad with the understanding that the future depended on her. But her drive for individuality quickly turned into a drive for power and want. To be listened to be understood, to be feared, just like she used to fear the world. And there's going to be a lot of comparisons from her to Brad, not because she was just raised by him, but because she cannot escape him. In the first segment after our dream state, the first thing that happens is that Buddy is attacked in her sleep by Brad. And we have to fend him off essentially until Buzzo appears and rounds him up and takes him with him. After that, we're free to take control of Buddy and start to explore the area around us. But it's only it's not even shortly after we learn some of the movement mechanics, being that we can sprint and jump over larger gaps than we could as Brad on his bike. We encounter a group of men who are standing in our way. Thankfully for us, Rando actually appears from behind, still badly beaten from his fight with Brad. He asks the group to leave her alone as he's too weak to fight for himself. But before that they can make a jump on us, a mutant appears and wails on a few of the men, giving Buddy and Rando a chance to escape. They take a hot moment of rest while Rando asks Buddy not to be mad at him. Him being Brad. He was just trying to protect, but she interrupts. She's heard that enough. Sticky told her about Rando, though, she brings up. She's confirmed to both him and the player that Sticky never did anything to harm her, like Brad had worried so much about in the Painful, to the point of his joy overdose exploiting that fear. Rando's happy to hear that, though. He put a lot of trust into Sticky. The two venture off while still trying to hide Buddy's face using one of Rando's masks, but nearly everyone's going to know who she is at this point. The two run into a group of men who had just taken down a mutant, and they're quick to attack. When Rando asks Buddy where she learned how to fight, she doesn't hesitate in sharing. Brad showed her. Brad never showed him anything like that. Still, Rando continues on with her on his shoulders until they get ambushed by another group of men. This was planned, however. They are the friends that Rando wanted to meet up with, minus one. Rando passes out after trying to move and wakes up crawling to Buddy's cell again. When he gets there, Buddy's excited to see him. He's not as excited to see the two bodies beside her. And just as Buddy said, this is exactly all that they do to her. She doesn't have remorse for her actions, even if they weren't exactly self-defense. She can't have remorse. It'd make her weak. And this is where we see that first familiar flash of red, because soon they'll all know who they are messing with. She's strong. She's not afraid. She's one of a kind. She's going to rule Olathe. Rando doesn't want to risk her getting hurt. Buddy wants to risk everything for her own future. She wants the warlords dead so she can have her name on the top of that goddamn list. And the first, Mr. Beautiful. The first warlord on our list, our hit list now, is ironically a pacifist who doesn't want to fight. He's a highly respected member for creating a community of similarly minded people, and each man we pass in this area, Buddy has to actively keep herself from attacking them on sight under Rando's request. You, as the player, are asked if you want to fight each time you brush past someone. I didn't leave anyone standing, keeping that idea that despite them not wanting to fight, Buddy wouldn't care. She wouldn't take the chance. Pink writing on the wall confirms the idea. If you won't defend yourself, you don't deserve to live. It's that simple. I'm fairly sure that these pink writings are Buddy's own thoughts, be it under her own personal beliefs or under her influence of joy. And when Buddy reaches Mr. Beautiful, Rando apologizes to him for what's about to happen. Buddy asks the man if he's Mr. Beautiful, and he hesitates, but he confirms it. There's nothing further, no talk, she goes right into combat. Mr. Beautiful, as a pacifist, doesn't fight back. Not until his mask breaks. Only then does he fight out of pure necessity. But it doesn't matter. His name's crossed off that list. They have a moment of rest, and Rando laments about how kids used to play, free of the terror of this world, how a kid like her shouldn't be living like this. That there used to be lots of fields and creeks, how even though his childhood wasn't the best, he remembers the good times. It's not normal. This isn't normal. But she knows that she was born into this Olathe, not the one before the Flash. This here is her normal. And as much as Randa would want to try and connect to Buddy to better their trust, I don't fully know if it would be completely possible. Buddy may always still have that little tinge of distrust, and it's because they came from literally different worlds. But right now, that doesn't matter. Next, Lardy Hernandez. When meeting with him, Buddy asks again if that's his name. It turns into a screaming match of Buddy wanting the admittance and Lardy refusing to be talked in such a way. It only stops when Rando confirms it for her. It's him. Right into combat, no questions besides Lardy giving a quick ask of, what the hell? When he's dead, Rando mentions that he was the main supplier for half of Olathe. And we have proof of this. His brother Fardy was a truck driver before he was captured. His brother Shardy was a ferry operator. Even that piece of shit Tardy was still a boat operator, even though he betrayed Brad and wanted a piece of Buddy for himself in the painful. But that's... God damn it, Tardy. He still had some usefulness. He acted as a boat. The biggest thing being that the Hernandez family has helped a lot of people. But Buddy doesn't care. She just tells Rando to get moving. It's back to the list so they can cross off his name. And when they rest, Rando admits that his name is Dustin Armstrong. That's Brad's last name, Buddy chimes in. He admits he was Brad's adoptive son and nearly had to explain what adoption was to Buddy. He liked to think that Brad was his dad, but he never liked being called Dad. That didn't change the respect he had for him, even up until the end. Brad didn't like Buddy calling him Dad either. Next, Vega Van Dam. Or I guess Vega Van Dam, because he's quite the showman. You see what yeah, he's flashy. Buddy confirms his identity, this time just saying good before initiating combat. Yeah, his glaring smile was really getting intense. He's tougher than his buddies, but they all go down just the same. Rando doesn't have anything to say about him. It's likely just because he had a rise to power versus being a contributing member to society. Wow, that's a commentary piece. I'm sure there's something that we can relate to the real world in somewhere there, but let's not get into that right now. Back to the list. We move to rest, and then Rando recognizes one of the growing amounts of corpses around the area. A mutant in a pink poncho, Bob. Buddy recognizes him as one of the kidnappers that got away, the fat one, and asks how Rando knows about him. Rando stops her, saying she can't keep killing people. She asks why. Rando reiterates that she alone has the power to give a future to the people. She can create peace, and he is right. She does have power, a lot of it. And she'll make her own future and her own world. She won't let anyone control her again. Not everyone deserves death, Rando tells her. He can't keep going on like this. He never wanted this. But she's only been showing these men the same compassion she's been shown. If she hasn't stood up for herself, she would have been beaten and used countless times by now. Rando goes to speak further to her, but he's told to shut up. Because if he's going to start to question her now, what kind of brother is he? She's one of a kind. He needs her. If he cared so much about peace, he'd have no choice but to fight by her side. He doesn't want to be like Brad, does he? He doesn't want to be a piece of shit like their dad, does he? He doesn't want to abandon her when she needs him the most, does he? He doesn't want to leave his sister to die, does he? Okay, I may have gotten carried away a little bit there, but this is where we start to see Buddy's own manipulation tactics. I didn't feel bad for her at all. I felt bad for Rando. This was a man who wanted to spread peace, and he was helping the only girl in the world destroy it. The evidence is strewn around them every time they go back to the list, from the blood and the corpses building up. They are not spreading peace. They are making more chaos. But Rando just apologizes and tells her to get some rest. They'll need it to keep going and to give everything that they've got. Buddy falls asleep, but Rando is gone by the time she wakes up. Speaking of waking up, can you tell my caffeine is starting to kick in a little bit? Alright, in my last video about Lisa the Painful, I mentioned that a lot of Brad's actions were repeated from his own father, that he couldn't stop the cycle of abuse and it poured over into Buddy's own life. Buddy was raised on violence because that's what gets immediate results. Getting grabbed by Buzzo's gang and having Buzzo ordering a gang member to hit her, for example. It made Brad agree to down Joy to the point of overdosing. Her chest was mutilated because of Brad's decision to save his men in my playthrough, or else 3 people would have died because she simply existed as leverage. Marty helped take care of her just for Brad to kill him. Brad fought through an entire army to get to her. Just to try and keep her safe, she had to kill someone at the start of the Painful, when their home was attacked. Violence got you the results you wanted, but violence also kept you alive. The area around the list is turning into a bloodbath. Pools of blood scattered around, corpses lying without graves, and Buddy pushes on alone. If Rando won't help her, if her own brother won't help her, then no one will. Next, Larry Stintz. No relation to a man we might know. He offers us an easy mode, unlike some other guy who told us about a hard mode. He's not a warlord, but I wanted to see what's up. We fight a fellow named Jerry Tintz, no relation, who's the first boss. He goes down easy since he said we weren't relationship material. What the hell does he know? We get a foam stick out of it, his bubbled mass decimating anything it comes into contact with, and a bunch of jerky. Yummy. We fight our estranged father, win in a single tap thanks to the destructive power of the foam bat. And that's it. That's the end. Okay, so obviously it's a joke segment since you can't actually leave once you pay Larry Stintz for the easy mode, but it made me realize something too. This is really the only proper joke moment we've gotten in the Joyful that I didn't take remotely seriously at all. Vega Van Dam constantly blinding people with his smile was funny, but we've been hit over the head with serious beat after serious beat. This section has an opportunity to find a Terry mask as well, but even the lead up to it is depressing. It features the scribblings of a man losing his mind to loneliness and depression, and it makes all the more sense why he was so quick to latch onto Brad. There's only one other segment that got an honest laugh out of me, where it's another massive climb like we had in the Painful, but instead of a giant middle finger at the top, we have to climb a second mountain to receive a few bottles and a developer thank you note, just for the next screen to have that classic middle finger stuck right at us. But honestly, the developer note was pretty nice, almost as nice as my Patreons. You know, like the gold tiers, Comatose, Nomadic Raven, and our regular old bookworm, Vivian Alledrin. You're all wonderful. You're great. But laughs aside, we have warlords to kill. And actually next, but properly another warlord, is Dice Mahone. His men are mostly hiding within buildings with posters hanging all over the place warning about Buddy. She's dangerous and must be killed, so on. At least she's getting recognized as a threat now, huh? Once we reach Dice, he's already turned into a joy mutant. He's not all too difficult since he spends a lot of his turns thinking. Man may have been more of a tactician and a bare-bones fighter, but he can still hit hard. But it's back to the list. Buddy is beginning to have heavier hallucinations now. Rando's seen on the road, but he vanishes the second we run into him. A new pink message is on the wall. Keep fighting. Next up is Big Lincoln. He has a number of fellas keeping watch, but Buddy cuts them down. He's hiding away in the building, which is dark as all hell. We can only tell where we are thanks to the curtains that act as doors. Eventually we reach him, his room illuminating just enough to see some of Buzzo's crew dead next to him. This wolf does not go down without a fight, and this was honestly one of the harder fights I had, making me go through a ton of health items and plan my attacks and support moves out some more. Realistically, with him being the top name on the list, I probably should have been a little bit better prepared, but it was a good challenge. As basic as it was, I liked this fight. Buddy though, it's for her it's just another name crossed off if that was in the way. Back to the list. More writing appears, telling Buddy you're almost free. Ignore the repeated kill writing all over the cliffsides. At this point, it's obvious that Buddy is starting to lose herself, just like Brad. She's starting to succumb to the effects of joy and starting to hallucinate more and more and more. On our way to the last warlord, however, we find the real Rando hanging from a barbed wire, dangling above a pit. Buddy takes the wire just as it snaps off of its rock support, and it digs into her skin. It cuts her hands. The wire's starting to give way, but she doesn't care. She holds on, just as the man who first tried to jump her appears. It's a trap. He threatens to use Buddy as she holds on the Rando, and you're given a choice to drop him or to hang on. Against maybe my better judgment, I hung on, and as soon the screen pans to the side to hide the implications. But a trumpet sounds. A mutant jumps into the frame for a second and off screen again. It saved Buddy before anything could happen to her. Rando is still keen on having her drop him, however, as he admits something to her. Those men in pink. He was in on the kidnapping. It was his fault. It was to protect, and the line snaps. Buddy heads down to the bottom of the pit, and Rando uses his last words to apologize. He wanted her to be safe. Safe. He wanted her to be safe. Safe. The red runs wild. His words repeat in her head, protect her and to keep her safe. She can't stop herself. She starts beating Rando's last fragments of life out of his body, all while Buddy yells about how much she hates Brad. He's no different. Rando's his kid. He's no different from Brad. And with each strike, it only makes her angrier until she slashes at Rando with her sword. But she doesn't feel anything afterwards. She can't afford to. She just moves on. One more. Next, Cindy Gallows. When she meets him, he's already hung by a noose. 4 cultists surrounding him. He went against the will of God, they say. The beasts must live on, and because they're the ones that killed them, that means they have to die. When they drop, Buddy begins to leave, but Cindy speaks up. He's not dead. He got that second spot for a reason. And if she wants it, she's gonna have to take it from him. Still, she cuts him down. Not to save him, like, cuts him down, like, deals the final blow. Like, she kills him. And for the last time, it's back to the list. Brad watches over Buddy from above. Rando watches over Buddy from above. Cheeks watches over her. Sticky watches over her. Rick watches over her. The corpses of mutants and men alike litter the floor. Beer bottles are filled with flowers. They line the ground. Fences have been built. Joy rests on the floor with a pink message above it. You'll need it. Buddy walks on, following the sound of a trumpet. Dr. Yado is surprised to see Buddy alive, but sicks his mutant pet onto her as he leaves. Partway through Buddy's fight, Buzzo interrupts and urges her to follow that man, as he has a vaccine for the joy she's been taking. It'll stop her from mutating. He doesn't wait to explain and sends her off to find him. Yado's again surprised to see her, thinking that his pet sweetheart would have killed her, stating she's not supposed to be here. Buddy presses him for questions, but he refuses to give any answers, and when he threatens her, he can't even look her in the eyes. And then the red appears as Buddy coldly states that she doesn't care who he is. She just wants that throne. And yet, Yado doesn't attack her. Instead, Buddy's head starts to hurt, and it's then that Yado faces her and begins hitting back. Again though, her head throbs, but he can't control it. The throne and Yado shift into a mangled Rando, mutated into the mass, holding a single flower. It's gone on too long. Buddy may have only used joy for a short time, in the sense of both games, but maybe her being so young left far more of an effect. Maybe it's been years already following Brad's example, and maybe the joy just activates a lot faster than we thought. And this is why taking joy or not taking joy doesn't change the outcome of our path. In the painful, Buddy's already been confirmed to take it from Marty. He told her not to use those little blue things. And it's set. There is no stopping this. And because it's already been confirmed that she's been using it, we can't stop Buddy from losing control. She passes out, presumably, and she's told to wake up, since she gets to go outside tomorrow, and wakes up in a field of blood and flowers. Down the line, Brad stands with a mass of flowers growing out of him. Starting to fight, Brad looks normal, like how we first saw him in the start of the painful when we found Buddy. Buddy. It was the best he can come up with. She was his little buddy. Guess it stuck around as her name, and it just worked. Brad doesn't know what to do. He's staring down at a pile of joy in his hand. Brad misses you. Brad is tired. Brad is lost. Don't call him that. He doesn't like that. His name's Brad, okay? Supposedly, this was from a time Buddy called him Dad. Someone he tried not to be like. Dad. Dad misses you. Dad's tired. Dad hugs you. A boy named Dusty. Who told her about that? Don't ask questions, you idiot. Don't go near your uncles again. He had no son. The nobody is a failure. He's crying deeply. He hates himself. He finally goes down, telling Buddy that he was completely lost before he met her. She showed him what love was, and that was a scary thing. He let himself sink to avoid facing it, but he tried so hard to fight it, and no matter what, he really did love her with all of his heart. He's so sorry he failed you, Buddy. Goodbye. There's no flashy explosion like normal, just a slow fade away. We're brought back to reality with Yado injured and his mound of mutants killed. It may not have been so much of a passing out, but more of a blacking out. Completely unaware of the world around her while she's succumbed to the memories of Brad, of her father, of Rando. Yado runs away, and Buddy has no remorse when she catches up to him, telling him to start talking or he's dead. He doesn't talk very well. I mean, it's out of anger, fear, or whatever it may be. But Yado introduces himself as a man of higher power, and this is his world. She's just a pawn, engineered by him. He birthed her. He's her father, and she must answer to him. The sword flies into him before anything else can be said. Buzzo approaches with a missing arm, badly beaten from his fight with Sweetheart. And he's got something to admit. Brad wasn't a bad person. Well, shit, there goes my entire running point of the last video and this one out of the window. Fuck! No, but Buzzo clarifies though, what happened wasn't Brad's fault. It was hers. He never names her directly there, but he means Lisa. Buzzo used Brad to unleash the pain Lisa put onto him through both her actions and the inactions of others. Buddy mentions that Yato claimed he was her dad, and Buzzo denies it, saying he worked with him. He's just an old, crazy man. Brad's her actual father, and Buddy's the one that gave Brad purpose. He loved her so much. It was just the joy. Buzzo. He drove Brad insane. Buddy asks why he's telling her all of this, and he supposes it's because she reminded him of her. That poor girl. She would have absolutely loved it here. The words slip from his mouth. Buzzo refuses to answer anything else, knowing that his time is coming. He asks if Buddy has the vaccine and tells her to use it. Buzzo collapses, falling victim to his own joy. He's been a good boy, he says. He swears he's good. His voice cracks as he begs and he mutates right in front of Buddy. Before he reaches the final stage of his transformation, he cries out. But when Buddy kills him, he says that he's free, and she's left alone. She did it. It's okay. Red. I'm okay. Red. A voice calls out and she sees a vision of Rando across the gap. She hears a cry and sees a mutated Brad behind her. Still, they're hallucinations caused by the joy. Buddy begins to cry out herself, asking why Brad's still there. She thought she got rid of him. It was all hers. No matter how hard she tried, she still couldn't shake the thought of Brad. He approaches and Buddy seems to understand what's being said, asking what? And even responding, no, I can't. Rando apologizes. They were wrong. She didn't need them. They only held her back. It was all her. But she's free now. She's a queen. She's a god. She's worshipped by them. Loved by them. They need her. She can't leave them. Randall wants her to stay with them. And that's when you're given a choice. You can leave them and take the vaccine, or you can stay with them and let yourself mutate. No matter what choice you make, the credits roll. And because of the choice I made, I chose to take the vaccine. After the end of the credits, we see a slightly older Buddy holding Yato's trumpet, a mutated Brad watching over a baby boy. Well, that was a handful, wasn't it? Lisa the Joyful was far less of a tragedy with comedic moments, and far more of a tragedy. The gameplay had changed to incentivize aggression, with enemies having high health pools and Buddy's blade skills having their timed critical and bleed bonuses. I think that's perfect for what this game was trying to get at. She's a broken child forced into choosing violence in order to keep herself alive. There is no trusting others, and anyone she has trusted has broken it somehow. She's truly alone with only fragments of family in her memories. Her approach to the warlords is ruthless, only confirming who they are before straight out attacking. She had to be strong. And the Joyful does a good job of making you feel powerful, despite also feeling weak. Buddy's attacks are crazy good when you get the timing down, but she can't take a lot of hits. When in group battles, it's difficult to keep up attacks when you're healing and waiting out status effects. You need to use your health items and healing skills, waiting out battles of poison, or if you have that timing down, you can take them down one by one. Buddy can't rely on raw power. She's just not strong enough to. She has to use her sleep and poison bombs and has to focus on where she's striking. It makes you feel that victory was well worth it. And when it came to Buzzo mentioning that it was his fault, Brad legitimately tried to raise her the best that he could, but the joy, his torment, his trauma, the choices he had to make that Buddy was forced to be a part of, it all warped their perception of one another. No kid should have to learn how to kill from their parents, but this Olathe wasn't the kind one. If he hadn't, she'd be dead by now, or worse. And still, she marched on. She's numb to the world, to her own pain, to the betrayal that she experiences, because she has to be. And I know I've said that a number of times going through this video, but it's because she realizes that. She's aware of that. You know how, like, some people would go and say, "Oh, you're so mature for your age," just because I was traumatized. Deborah, I was robbed of my childhood. Did your dad come up to you on your 10th birthday going, "Surprise, kill a man"? No, he didn't, because you didn't live in the wasteland. This is the wasteland, an apocalypse, baby. Which is funny to say because, in that case, Buddy is an apocalypse baby. I like the way that Buddy is characterized in the Joyful. The only issues I really had going for the DLC game, whatever you want to call it, came from the lore dumps. Rando telling Buddy about his past makes a lot of sense, trying to build up trust and sharing his stories to do so. But Buzzo dropping info about Lisa at the end just felt a little odd. Like, it was trying to convince Buddy that Brad wasn't a bad person. Yes, I can understand that. The point that was more like him accepting the blame for himself and taking responsibility for how he's tormented Brad, but going farther into his own regrets over Lisa. I do get the entirety of it. It's his last moments. He's turning into a joy mutant. You're going to think about your greatest wants, and I think for him, it was that he wanted Lisa's approval, and that's all he wanted. I just suppose it feels like Dingaling was more so trying to tie up loose ends when writing these scenes, and not fully going for that emotional beat. He just wanted to get the information out. Or, you know, maybe playing for the Joyful has just made me numb to any emotion, driving me to only strive for destruction as my rightful place as queen of my library, which I stream from over at... Okay, no, I don't think that's I can't do the bit. This round didn't have a lot of comedic breaks. I really had. I think because they didn't fully embrace the weirdness of the wasteland, like the painful. But anyways, that's the end of the video here. Follow that Twitch I mentioned, Angelic Alexi. It's where I am everywhere, like my Twitter, Patreon. Subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Use Joy. No, what? I don't have a funny one-liner this time. I don't have a joke. I told you, this game comes off more serious, and I just couldn't think of something. It's almost as serious as Sirius Snape featured in the horrible game Hogwarts.